If you want to hear a story, clap your hands. If you want to hear a story, clap your hands. If you want to hear a story, if you want to hear a story, if you want to hear a story, clap your hands. If you want to hear a story, stomp your feet. If you want to hear a story, stomp your feet. If you want to hear a story, if you want to hear a story, if you want to hear a story, stomp your feet. If you want to hear a story, find your seat. If you want to hear a story, find your seat. If you want to hear a story, if you want to hear a story, if you want to hear a story, find your seat. Well, good morning and welcome to story time. Looks like it might rain, so if it starts raining, we'll just be done and you can go inside if you want to wait the rain out. So I was asked a question last week at story time about how many books are in the library, and I promised I would find out and let you know today. So I found out, and in the whole entire Pioneerland system, we have 563,245 books. And just at Hutchinson, we have 39,673 books. That's a lot of books, isn't it? And we're always buying new books too. Every month we're buying new books. So that number just seems to get bigger and bigger, doesn't it? So that's really exciting. So you can tell your friends that there's a lot of books to pick from at our library. Ooh, the wind is really blowing. All right, so today we're going to read books about Australia or by Australian authors. And that's because we have these really cool Australian programs, or digital programs, on our website. So you can ask mom or dad or a teacher or a friend, daycare friend, to help you register online. It's super easy to do, and then you can watch the video at any time and as many times as you want. But one is all about Australian animals and music and dancing, and it's funny, and he's really cool guy to listen to. And then the other one is about how to make a didgeridoo, which is a really long tube made of wood usually, and they blow in it and it makes really cool sounds. But if you watch the video, he plays that instrument in both videos for you. So let me sit these down so they don't blow away here. Our first story is I Went Walking. I went walking. What did you see? What do you think? Maybe. I saw a black cat looking at me. I went walking. What did you see? Let's find out. The clues are over here. I saw a brown horse looking at me. I went walking. What did you see? I saw a red cow looking at me. What does a cow say? Oh, you guys are awesome. I went walking. What did you see? I saw a green duck looking at me. I went walking. What did you see? Let's find out. I saw a pink pig looking at me. What does a pig say? Good job. I went walking. What did you see? I saw a yellow dog looking at me. Looks like that dog is giving kisses. I went walking. What did you see? I saw a lot of animals following me. Look at them all. All right, so I brought a little friend of mine. She came from a really long ways away. Her name is Bianca, Miss Bianca. She's a very old friend of mine. Hello. Miss Bianca, these are our Storytime friends. Hi. Do you know what kind of animal Bianca is? A koala. Are you a koala bear? No. What do you think she is? Are koalas bears? No. Are koalas bears? No. We are marsupials, not bears. Did you know there's lots of animals called marsupials? And marsupials are special animals that have a pocket in their tummies that they keep their babies in. So can you think of another animal from Australia that could be a marsupial?
Kangaroo.
You're right! Kangaroos are marsupials. And koalas eat a lot, but they only eat one thing. What kind of leaves, do you know? What kind of leaves do you eat? Eucalyptus. Oh. But the next story is about one of Miss Bianca's friends named Koala Lu. So let's read about that. Let's put her over here. So Koala Lu. This is written by Mim Fox. There was once a baby koala so soft and round that all who saw her loved her. Her name was Koala Lu. Have you? The emu loved her, the platypus loved her, and even tough little koala claws next door loved her. But it was her mother who loved her most of all. 100 times a day she would laugh and shake her head and say, "Koala Lu, I do love you." Whenever she stretched in the early morning sun or climbed a gum tree or bravely went down the path all by herself, her mother would smile and say, "Koala Lu, I do love you." We'll see if we can get through this one. The years passed and the other koalas were born, brothers and sisters for Koala Lu. Soon her mother was so busy she didn't have time to tell Koala Lu she loved her, although of course she did. Every night she curled up under the stars. Koala Lu looked at the times when her mother had looked at her and said, "Koala Lu, I do love you." And she longed for her to say it again. One night, Koala Lu had a splendid idea. Preparations had begun for the Bush Olympics. She would enter the gum tree climbing event, and she would win. Her mother would fling her arms around her neck and say, "Koala Lu, I do love you." You still good? Okay. Koala Lu began her training right away. She jogged and puffed and lifted weights and panted. She hung from a branch with one claw at a time until she ached. She did push-ups till her stomach hurt. And last of all, she climbed the tallest tree that she could find over and over again. Sometimes her mother would watch her and ask, How you going, Blossom?" "Fine, just fine," Koala Lu would reply. At last, the day of the Bush Olympics have arrived. Did you know there's Olympics going on right now? Yeah, the Summer Olympics. Koala Claus had also entered the gum tree climbing event, and everyone knew how fast she was, but Koala Lu wasn't scared. She saw her mother in the crowd and imagined her saying, "Koala Lu, I do love you." Her heart filled with hope. It was Koala Claus who went first. Her climb was a record-breaking 22 meters and 70 seconds flat. The spectators whistled and cheered and wildly waved their party hats. Can I do better than that? Wondered Koala Lu. I must. And she stepped on the tree and a hush fell over the crowd. On your mark, said the kookaburra. Get set, go! Koala Lu leapt onto the tree. Up and up she climbed, higher and higher and higher, faster and faster, until there she was, right at the top. The spectators roared and clapped and stomped their feet. But she wasn't fast enough. In spite of all her training and all her hoping, it was Koala Claus who won the gum tree climbing. Koala Lu came in second. Koala Lu went off and hid. She heard shouts of the Bush Olympics and cried her heart out. Oh, poor Koala Lu. When the first stars of the evening appeared in the sky, Koala Lu crept home through the dark and up into the gum tree. Her mother was waiting for her. Before she could say a word, her mother had flung her arms around her neck and said, Koala Lu, I do love you. I always have, and I always will. And she hugged her for a very long time. So now that we're inside, where it's dry, since it's raining outside, I'll keep reading a few books here. So animals should definitely not wear clothing. We'll have to find out. Animals should definitely not wear clothing. Oh, that's a good question. Because it would be disastrous for a porcupine.
Totally. Yeah, that's what I was literally just
Because a camel might wear it in the wrong places.
Oh my. it looks like his hump is bigger than his head.
Because a snake would lose it.
Oh yeah.
Because a mouse would get lost in it.
Oh yeah. If it was. Is that?
Because a sheep might find it terribly hot.
Oh yeah.
That is a silly outfit for a sheep.
I don't think so.
Because it would be very messy for a pig.
Oh my gosh.
It's pretty gross. Because it might make life hard for a hen.
What's that? Like? Oh,
It's her egg. Because a kangaroo would find it quite unnecessary.
What's wrong with that?
Kangaroos already have pouches.
Yeah.
They already have a big pocket. Because a giraffe might look sort of silly.
That much tie-dye, I agree.
Because a billy goat would eat it for lunch.
Oh yeah. Tell me that story.
Because it would always be wet on a walrus.
Oh yeah.
Because a moose could never manage.
A farming suit.
Because possums might wear it upside down by mistake.
Well, I mean, it doesn't look wrong, but I mean, if it had legs if it had two arms on top, but I would be laughing.
And most of all, because it might be very embarrassing.
What's that on his head? Like a. What's that?
Some kind of a fancy green hat, I guess.
That's a big ant.
Hat.
I said a beehive, but it's a big ant.
All right. Wombat walkabout. And wombats are a type of animal that live in Australia. And a walkabout is a cultural walk that a lot of Australians do. They would go and they call it walkabout. Like we might call it a hike. We go in the mountains and go hiking. In Australia, they say, let's go on a walkabout. All right. Early one morning when the sun came out, 6 woolly wombats went walkabout. They didn't see the dingo with the hungry eye. I've a hunch my lunch just walked on by.
Wait, dingoes are endangered species.
Yep. Dingoes also will.
Have you heard about the wombat stew one?
Yep.
Yeah, so like there's this big fat wombat, and then the dingo tries to catch it for its lunch, and then all these animals they throw stuff in it, and then once he tries it, and then the animals say, one last taste before you put in the wombat. He nipped it, and ouch.
Oh.
Ouch.
6 woolly wombats walking one by one past a golden wattle blooming in the sun. The last little wombat, whose name was Clive, stopped to smell the flowers. So if Clive stops, how many wombats are there? Started with 6, take away 1. Then there were 5. 5 woolly wombats ambling right along, crossed the wooden bridge at the Billabong. The last little wombat, young Theodore, stopped to throw a pebble. So 5 minus 1
5 minus 1 is 3.
is 4. Then there were 4. 4 woolly wombats trekking down the track. Heard a kookaburra laughing like a maniac. The last little wombat, whose name was Lee, stopped to have a listen. So 4, take away 1. Then there were 3. 3 woolly wombats all in a row passed by the wood where the gum trees grow. The last little wombat, known as Prue, stopped to pick a gum nut. So 3, take away 1 is 2. Then there were 2. 2 woolly wombats, Jen and Jack, thought it was awfully quiet, so they looked back. No little wombats? That's not good. They jumped off the track and hid in the wood. Along came the dingo, his tail a wag, and on his back a big swag bag. The swag was lumpy and jumping all about. That bloke's got our mates, we've got to get them out. Now wombats are diggers, so Jen began to dig, while Jack gathered armloads of sticks and twigs. They dug a great pit, wide and deep. They covered it over. Then Jen began to weep. I'm a poor little wombat, all alone, lost in the woods, so far from home. The dingo licked his lips and said with a yelp, Don't worry, little wombat, I'm coming to help. Crack went the branches. The dingo took a dive. Oh no. The swag bag opened and out popped Clive. Then the others climbed out. 1, 2, 3. Good work, mates, they said. What wombat glee! Six woolly wombats, good as new, walked along together 2 by 2. Jen, Jack, Theodore, Prue, Clive, and Lee had a lovely walkabout. Then home for tea. Should we count them at their house? So 1.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
They all made it home, didn't they? That's good news. Alright, so the last book I've got here is called Possum Magic by Mem Fox. Once upon a time, not very long ago, deep in the Australian bush, lived two possums. Their names were Hush and Grandma Poss. Grandma Poss made bush magic. She made wombats blue and kookaburras pink. She made dingoes smile and emus shrink. But the best magic of all was the magic that made Hush invisible. What adventures Hush had! Because she couldn't be seen, she could be squashed by koalas. Because she couldn't be seen, she could slide down kangaroos. Because she couldn't be seen, she was safe from snakes, which is why Grandma Poss made her invisible in the first place.
Snakes are dangerous.
But one day, quite unexpectedly, Hush said, "Grandma, I want to know what I look like again. Please, could you make me visible again?" "Of course I can," said Grandma Poss, and she began to look through her magic books. She looked into this book and she looked into that. There was magic for thin and magic for fat, magic for tall and magic for small, but the magic she was looking for wasn't there at all. Oh no. Grandma Poss looked miserable. "Don't worry, Grandma," said Hush. "I don't mind." But in her heart of hearts, she did. Do you think she'll become visible again? Maybe. All night long, Grandma Poss thought and thought. The next morning, just before breakfast, she shouted, "It's something to do with food. People food, not possum food. But I can't remember what. We'll just have to try and find it." So later that day, they left the bush where they'd always been to find what it was that would make Hush seen. They ate Anzac biscuits in Adelaide, Monterey and Minties in Melbourne, steak and salad in Sydney, and pumpkin scones in Brisbane. And those are all cities and foods from Australia. Hush remained invisible. "Don't lose heart," said Grandma Poss. "Let's see what we can find in Darwin." It was there in the far north of Australia that they found a Vegemite sandwich. Grandma Poss crossed her claws and crossed her feet. Hush breathed deeply and began to eat. "A tail! A tail!" shouted both possums at once, for there it was, a brand new, visible tail. Later on a beach in Perth, they ate a piece of pavlova. Hush's legs appeared, so did her body. "You look wonderful, you precious possum," said Grandma Poss. "Next stop, Tasmania." And over the sea they went. In Hobart, late one night in the kitchens of the casino, they saw a lamington on a plate. Hush closed her eyes and nibbled. Grandma Poss held her breath and waited. "It worked! It worked!" she cried. And she was right. Hush could be seen from head to tail. Grandma Poss hugged Hush and they both danced. "Here we go round the lamington plate till early in the morning." From that time onward, Hush was visible, But once a year on her birthday, she and Grandma Poss ate a Vegemite sandwich, a piece of pavlova, and half a lamington, just to make sure that Hush stayed visible forever. And she did. And there is a map of their journey around Australia. Pictures of the food they ate in each spot.
Darwin. There's actually a Darwin town around here.
There is a Darwin around here. Yeah. All right. So we did get through all of our Australian books today. Hey, even though it rained. All right. So that's all I've got for story time today. So we'll see you guys next Thursday.